Alex had been training in martial arts for 15 long years. Every morning at 5 a.m., he would wake up and head to the gym before most people even thought about getting out of bed. His black belt wasn't just a piece of cloth around his waist. It represented thousands of hours of sweat, pain, and dedication. During the week, Alex worked as a computer programmer. He sat at his desk typing code and fixing software problems. It was a good job that paid the bills, but his real passion came alive on weekends. That's when he would put on his fighting gear and step into the ring. The local martial arts community knew Alex well. He had won several smaller tournaments over the years, but there was one prize that always seemed just out of reach: the state championship. This wasn't just any regular competition. Winners from the state championship got invited to national tournaments. Some even caught the attention of professional fighting organizations. For 3 years in a row, Alex had made it to the semifinals of the state championship. Each time, something went wrong. One year, he pulled a muscle in his leg during training, just days before the big fight. Another year, he got sick with the flu and couldn't perform at his best. Last year, he lost in a close decision that many people thought should have gone his way. But this year felt different. Alex had been training harder than ever. His coach, an old-school fighter named Tom, had been pushing him to new limits. "This is your year, kid," Tom would say after particularly tough training sessions. "I can see it in your eyes. You're ready." The state championship was held at the city's biggest sports arena. As Alex walked through the entrance on that Saturday morning, he could feel his heart beating faster. The place was packed with more people than he had ever seen at a martial arts event. Families filled the stands, cheering for their favorite fighters. Local TV crews were setting up cameras to broadcast the matches. What made Alex even more nervous were the scouts. These were representatives from major fighting schools and professional organizations. They came to these championships looking for new talent. Alex had heard stories of fighters who got discovered at events like this and went on to have amazing careers. In the warm-up area, Alex went through his usual routine. He stretched his muscles, practiced his kicks, and tried to calm his mind. Other fighters were doing the same thing around him. Some looked confident, others seemed nervous. Alex fell somewhere in between. His first match was scheduled for 10 a.m. As he wrapped his hands and put on his protective gear, Alex thought about all the sacrifices he had made to get to this moment. He had missed family gatherings, skipped vacations, and spent countless evenings in the gym instead of relaxing at home. The announcer's voice echoed through the arena, calling fighters to their matches. Alex took a deep breath and walked toward the ring. This was it, his chance to finally break through and achieve the dream he had been chasing for so long. Alex breezed through his first 2 matches with ease. His techniques were sharp, his timing was perfect, and his confidence was growing with each victory. By the time he reached the semifinals, word was spreading through the crowd about the programmer, who fought like a champion. His semifinal opponent was Daniel, a 26-year-old fighter who had been making waves in the regional circuit. Daniel was younger, faster, and had a reputation for being unpredictable in the ring. This was exactly the kind of challenge Alex had been preparing for. The referee for their match was Robert, a 58-year-old man who had been officiating martial arts tournaments for over 20 years. Robert was well respected in the community. During the day, he worked as a security guard at a local shopping mall, but on weekends he could be found at tournaments across the state. Fighters trusted him because he was fair and always put safety first. As Alex and Daniel entered the ring, the crowd grew louder. This was one of the most anticipated matches of the day. Both fighters had strong fan bases and the energy in the arena was electric. The first round was close. Both fighters landed good shots, but neither could gain a clear advantage. Alex's experience showed in his defense, while Daniel's youth gave him an edge in speed. When the round ended, the score was tied. The second round was more intense. Daniel came out aggressive, throwing combinations that kept Alex on the defensive. But halfway through the round, Alex found his rhythm. He started countering Daniel's attacks and landing clean shots. By the end of the second round, Alex had taken a slight lead. Going into the third and final round, both fighters were tired but determined. The crowd was on its feet, sensing that something special was happening. Alex knew he needed to stay focused and not let Daniel mount a comeback. 2 minutes into the final round, the moment came that would change everything. Daniel threw a wild punch that left him off balance. Alex saw his opportunity and launched a perfect roundhouse kick, the same technique he had practiced thousands of times in training. But just as Alex's foot was flying through the air, Daniel ducked lower than expected. The kick that was meant to hit Daniel's chest sailed over his head and connected with something else entirely. The sound was horrible. Alex's foot hit Robert squarely in the jaw with the full force of his most powerful technique. The crack echoed through the arena like a gunshot. Time seemed to stop. Robert's eyes rolled back, and he collapsed to the canvas like a fallen tree. Blood immediately started pooling around his head. The arena, which had been roaring with excitement just seconds before, fell completely silent. Alex froze in shock. His leg was still in the air from the kick, but his mind couldn't process what had just happened. Daniel stopped mid-attack and stared at the referee's motionless body. Other officials rushed into the ring from all directions. Someone in the crowd screamed. Then another person yelled for a doctor. The silence broke as hundreds of voices started shouting at once. Some people in the stands stood up to get a better look, while others covered their faces, unable to watch. Alex dropped to his knees beside Robert. The referee's jaw was clearly broken, twisted at an unnatural angle. His breathing was shallow and irregular. Blood continued to flow from his mouth onto the white canvas. "I'm sorry," Alex whispered, his voice cracking. "I'm so sorry." But Robert couldn't hear him. The man who had been standing perfectly fine just moments ago was now unconscious and badly injured. The paramedics arrived within 4 minutes, but to Alex it felt like hours. He watched helplessly as they worked on Robert, checking his pulse, stabilizing his neck, and carefully loading him onto a stretcher. The injured referee's face was swollen beyond recognition, and Alex couldn't shake the image from his mind. Tournament officials immediately stopped all matches. The arena that had been buzzing with excitement just minutes earlier now felt like a funeral home. Spectators gathered, in small groups, whispering about what they had witnessed. Many people started leaving, unwilling to watch any more fighting after seeing such a terrible accident. Alex sat in the corner of the ring, still wearing his fighting gear, but feeling like his world was falling apart. His coach Tom tried to comfort him, but Alex couldn't hear the words. All he could think about was Robert lying unconscious on that stretcher. The tournament director, a stern woman named Linda, approached Alex with a clipboard and a grim expression. "I'm sorry, but we have to suspend you pending an investigation," she said. "This is just procedure, but you understand we can't continue with you in the competition." Alex nodded silently. Winning the tournament was the last thing on his mind now. He just wanted to know if Robert was going to be okay. News crews that had come to cover the championship suddenly had a much bigger story. By that evening, footage of the accident was playing on local television stations. The headline read, "Fighter seriously injures referee at state championship." Alex's name and photo appeared alongside the story, but not in the way he had always dreamed. At the hospital, doctors worked for 3 hours to repair Robert's shattered jaw. He had suffered multiple fractures, a severe concussion, and had lost several teeth. The medical team said he would need at least 2 more surgeries and months of recovery time. His wife Lisa sat in the waiting room, trying to process how a normal Saturday had turned into such a nightmare. Back at his apartment that night, Alex couldn't sleep. He kept replaying the moment over and over in his mind. If only Daniel hadn't ducked so low. If only Robert had been standing a few inches to the left. If only he had thrown a different technique. The what-ifs were driving him crazy. His phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters wanted interviews. Other fighters were calling to check on him. His dojo owner, Master Chen, called to tell him that they needed to distance themselves from the situation until things got sorted out. In other words, Alex was no longer welcome at the place where he had trained for over a decade. The worst call came from his sponsor, a local sports equipment company that had been supporting Alex's tournament expenses. They were pulling their sponsorship immediately. "We can't be associated with this kind of publicity," the company representative explained. "I'm sure you understand." Alex's dreams of competing at the national level seemed to be disappearing along with everything else. Word spread quickly through the martial arts community. Some people said it was just a freak accident that could happen to anyone. Others whispered that Alex had been reckless and should have been more careful. 3 days after the accident, Alex received a letter from a law firm. Robert's family was considering legal action. The letter mentioned possible charges of assault and demanded that Alex's insurance information be provided immediately. Reading those words made Alex feel sick to his stomach. He had spent 15 years building his reputation in the martial arts world. Now, in just a few seconds, it had all come crashing down. The man who had once been known as a skilled and respectful fighter was now being called dangerous and careless. Alex wondered if he would ever be able to step into a ring again. More importantly, he wondered if Robert would ever forgive him for what had happened. 3 weeks had passed since the accident, and Alex was living in a nightmare that wouldn't end. He had stopped going to the gym entirely. His appetite was gone, and he barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Robert falling to the canvas. His friends tried to cheer him up, but Alex pushed everyone away. The legal pressure was mounting. Robert's medical bills were already over $40,000, and the doctors said he would need additional surgeries. Alex's lawyer had warned him to expect a lawsuit that could cost him everything he owned. His small apartment, his car, even his savings account. It could all be taken away. The martial arts community had split into 2 camps. Some people defended Alex, saying it was clearly an accident that could have happened to anyone. Others blamed him for being reckless and called for him to be banned from competition permanently. Online forums were filled with heated arguments about whether Alex should face criminal charges. Local news stations had moved on to other stories, but the damage to Alex's reputation was permanent. His programming job was safe, but his co-workers looked at him differently now. During lunch breaks, conversations would stop when he walked into the room. On a rainy Thursday morning, Alex's phone rang. He almost didn't answer it because he was tired of dealing with reporters and lawyers, but something made him pick up on the 4th ring. "Hello? Is this Alex?" The voice was unfamiliar, slightly muffled and speaking carefully. "Yes, this is Alex. Who is this?" "This is Robert Johnson, the referee from the tournament." Alex nearly dropped the phone. His heart started racing, and his hands began to shake. This was the call he had been dreading for 3 weeks. "Mr. Johnson, I don't know what to say. I'm so sorry about what happened. I never meant for—" "Please, just listen to me for a minute," Robert interrupted gently. His voice was different now, affected by the wires holding his jaw together. But there was something unexpected in his tone. It wasn't anger. It almost sounded like understanding. "I've been watching the video of the accident over and over again," Robert continued slowly. "I've shown it to other referees, to martial arts experts, even to my physical therapist. And you know what everyone says? They all say the same thing." Alex held his breath, waiting for whatever crushing blow was coming next. "Your technique was perfect, absolutely perfect. The angle, the timing, the execution, everything was exactly right. What happened wasn't your fault, Alex. It was a combination of your opponent's unexpected movement and my own poor positioning. I should have been standing further back." Alex couldn't believe what he was hearing. He had prepared himself for anger, threats, demands for money. He never expected this. "But that's not the most important thing I want to tell you," Robert continued. "Do you know what's happened since the accident?" No. What do you mean?" Robert's voice grew stronger, despite the difficulty speaking through his wired jaw. "The martial arts community has come together in a way I've never seen before. People who never talked to each other are now working together. Fighters from different schools are visiting me in the hospital. Tournament organizers are meeting to discuss safety improvements. There's a fundraiser being planned to help cover my medical bills, but also to create better protective equipment for referees." Alex was stunned into silence. "For the past 5 years, since I retired from my main job, I've been feeling pretty useless," Robert admitted. "I was just going through the motions, officiating matches but not really feeling connected to anything." But this accident has shown me how much this community means to me, and how much I apparently mean to them. I still can't believe what I'm hearing, Alex whispered. I want to meet with you, Alex. Not to blame you or ask for money. I want to talk about how we can work together to make sure nothing like this ever happens again. Will you come see me? The hospital room was quiet except for the soft beeping of machines. When Alex walked in, he barely recognized Robert. The referee's face was still swollen, his jaw wired shut, but his eyes were bright and alert. More surprising was the warm smile Robert managed despite his injuries. Thank you for coming, Robert said through his wired jaw, the words coming out slowly but clearly. Alex had prepared a long apology speech, but seeing Robert's condition made him emotional. Mr. Johnson, I can't tell you how sorry I am. I've been living with this guilt every single day. I never meant to hurt you. I know you didn't, Robert replied gently. And please call me Robert. We're going to be working together. Working together? Robert gestured for Alex to sit down in the chair next to his bed. I've been thinking about this for weeks now. You have technical expertise that most people in our sport don't have. You understand fighting techniques from the inside. I have 20 years of officiating experience. Together, we could create something that prevents accidents like this from happening to other people. Over the next 4 hours, the two men talked about everything. Robert explained how he had been struggling with depression since retiring from his full-time job. The accident, as terrible as it was, had given him a new sense of purpose. The overwhelming support from the martial arts community had reminded him how much he loved being part of this world. Alex shared his own story, the years of training, the dreams of national competition, and the crushing guilt he had been carrying. For the first time in weeks, he felt like someone truly understood what he was going through. Here's what I'm thinking, Robert said, his voice growing more excited despite the difficulty speaking. We create a foundation together. We develop new safety protocols, better protective equipment for referees, and training programs to teach officials how to position themselves more safely during matches. The idea was brilliant. Alex's technical knowledge combined with Robert's practical experience could revolutionize tournament safety. They spent the rest of the afternoon sketching out plans, discussing funding options, and dreaming about how their foundation could help people across the country. 6 months later, the Johnson Rodriguez Safety Foundation held its first major event. They had developed new protective gear for referees, created positioning guidelines that were being adopted by tournaments nationwide, and established a scholarship program for young officials. The foundation's biggest test came at the next year's state championship, the same tournament where everything had gone wrong. This time, Alex wasn't competing. Instead, he was there as a certified referee trainer, teaching other officials the safety techniques he and Robert had developed. Robert was back too, officiating matches with the new protective equipment they had designed together. His jaw had healed well, though he still spoke a bit differently than before. But his confidence was stronger than ever. During the tournament's closing ceremony, something unexpected happened. The tournament director called both Alex and Robert to the center of the ring. In front of the same crowd that had witnessed their accident a year earlier, she presented them with a special award for their contributions to martial arts safety. These two men turned a tragedy into an opportunity to help others, she announced. Their foundation has already prevented dozens of similar accidents across the country. The crowd erupted in applause that lasted nearly 5 minutes. People were standing, cheering, and many were wiping away tears. Alex looked over at Robert, who was smiling broadly despite his healing jaw. Later that evening, as they packed up their equipment, Robert turned to Alex with a grin. You know, I never thanked you properly. Thanked me? For what? For kicking me in the face, Robert laughed. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. Alex shook his head, still amazed by how everything had turned out. He had lost his dream of winning the state championship, but he had gained something much more valuable. He had found his true purpose in life, and he had gained a friend who would last forever. Their story became legend in the martial arts world. Proof that even the worst accidents can lead to the greatest triumphs when people choose forgiveness over revenge and cooperation over conflict.